Till 206 we thought there were 9 planets, but then in 206 a new definition for planet was given and Pluto did not fit in it. So, today we have only 8 planets, and these planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune. Difficult to remember? What you can do is make a word out of the first letter of all the planets, like M, V, E, M, J, S, U, N, like they have for Vibgyor, and then you will always remember. Why did I write the names of planets as 1 to 8? Is there any order? Yes, there is, and the criteria is distance from Sun. So, what we find is that the first 4 planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars, they are referred as inner planets, and the rest 4 are referred as outer planets. Now, we will study about each planet one by one. You can easily see that Mercury is closest to the Sun. So, if we study about Mercury, first point about Mercury would be it is closest to Sun. So, obviously, if it is closest to Sun, it will be very difficult to see it because of the glare of the Sun. So, when can we see Mercury? We can see it when Sun is dim. And when is Sun dim? At the time of sunrise or the sunset. It is also the smallest planet. So, one is that the size is small, and second is that it is close to Sun. So, obviously, we cannot see it. Now, you see, sometimes in exam you can be asked questions like why we cannot see Mercury during noon. So, the answer would be very simple, that Sun is very bright. So, because of the glare of the Sun, the Mercury, being a very small planet, cannot be seen. Now, Mercury also does not have any moons. This is another characteristic feature of inner planets. They either do not have moon or they have only 1 or 2 moons, while the outer planets have more than 2 and they have in fact many moons. The planets revolve around the Sun, and you know, they do not revolve just like that. They have a definite path, and that definite path is called orbit. So, if you want to define orbit, it will be the definite path through which a planet revolves is called its orbit. So, the important words are definite path and the planet. So, the definite path through which a planet revolves is called its orbit. So, obviously, closer the planet, the orbit will be shorter. Now, the size of the orbit will vary. A planet which is closer to the Sun will have a shorter orbit, because naturally it has to revolve only around that. And so, which planet will have shortest orbit? Of course, the Mercury. And the largest orbit will be that of Neptune. And in the case of Uranus and Neptune, from circular the orbit becomes elliptical. So, this is another characteristic, that as we move outwards towards the outer planets, their orbits are not circular but elliptical. These planets also have Hindi names, like Mercury is called Budh and Venus is Shukra, Shukra Tara. Now, Shukra Tara is the brightest of all, and also it is closest to Earth. On the inner side is Venus and on the outer side is Mars. So, Venus is our planetary neighbor, like you have your own neighbors. So, planets also have their neighbors, and Venus also does not have any moons. Another feature about Venus is that it shows phases like moon. That means it appears it is increasing or decreasing in size. Now the next planet is our very own Earth. So Earth is of course the best of all. Why? Not because we are earthlings, but because Earth has air, water and ozone. It has atmosphere. The ozone is the umbrella which protects Earth from ultraviolet rays, and of course there is air and water. Another thing it has is right distance from sun, so right temperature. Because of these factors there is life. In no other planet there is life. Another feature about Earth is that it of course revolves around the sun, and also it rotates on its own axis. And the axis of the rotation of the Earth is not perpendicular to the plane of its orbit. That means it is not vertical like this. If this is the orbit, then it is not like this. In fact, it is slightly tilted. It is this tilt which brings about change of seasons. So Earth also revolves around the sun and it also rotates on its axis, just like the top you play with that moves on its own axis. Earth also moves on its own axis, and the axis is not vertical but tilted. The next planet to Earth is Mars, and it is colored. It is reddish in color, so it is called red planet. It also has faint rings. Of course, we can't see them with naked eye, but with the help of a powerful telescope, we can see these rings. It has 2 moons. Now, what is the pattern? The Mercury and the Venus had no moons. Earth has 1 and Mars has 2. So, the inner planets, the moon is either absent or there are only 1 or 2 moons. Jupiter is the largest planet, so much so that 1300 Earths can fit into it. So, you can imagine the size. But its mass is only 318 times that of the Earth. It rotates very rapidly on its axis. It has faint rings, many moons, and it is also very bright. Saturn or the Shani is yellowish in color, and it has beautiful rings. Now, you see that the outer planets have rings, but the inner planets do not have. It has again many moons because the outer planets have many moons, and then it is least dense. The density is very little, so much so that it is even less dense than water. So, you can imagine how it would be. Uranus and Neptune are the outermost planets. Now, these planets have highly elliptical orbit. It is not circular. Another thing is they have highly tilted rotational axis. So, you see when it is rotating, it seems it is as if rolling over like a ball. And another feature is that it rotates from east to west, and it has many moons. So, this was about the planets.